Okay, an extra note that you can play is the 11. The 11 is really hip. And like I said, sometimes you want to highlight dissonance. So if I notice that the 11 is really close to the 5, I think that might sound really great. I might want to play it like that. Hi everybody, and welcome to Aimee Nolte Music. Today we're talking about comping. It's comping in a nutshell. It's everything you wished you knew about being the instrument that plays the chords in a jazz group. Just tied up in a tidy little package for you. There are quite a few reasons why we comp. One of the best reasons I like to tell people is to sound like you're the horn section doing the punches in a big band arrangement. Another one, and it falls right in line with this one, is to let the listener hear the harmony, hear where every chord changes, and especially where the big changes in the harmony of an arrangement happen. When you comp, you can play in the holes or in the rests. You can also use the rhythm of your comping to accent what other people are doing. I've got other videos that cover all of the things that I'll touch on today more in depth. A video about comping rhythms, videos about beginner comping, starting with thirds and sevens, videos about closed voicings, open voicings, big voicings, and the video I would recommend for everyone just to check out a little bit is the video about my jazz Bible, which I will reference several times today. All right, let's get to the piano. I want to show you what's up. All right, the first thing we're going to do is talk about when you comp. Now, sometimes as a piano player, you're the only one playing music. It's just you. So sometimes when you comp, you're going to have to do it with your right hand because your left hand is going to be busy. Like that. Sometimes your left hand is going to provide the walking bass, and your right hand needs to do all the comping all by itself. Now, for the most part today, we're going to focus on when you do have a bass player, and you don't need to cover that with your left hand. The only thing you need to cover are the chords. In this case, we just have to imagine that we have a bass player. I want to talk about rhythm right off the bat. Like I said, I do have a whole video on comping rhythms. But those kind of rhythms that I was just playing for you, those are great rhythms to just start out with. Da, 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 do, wah. Like I said earlier, we're trying to be like Duke Ellington's band. Like we're playing those figures behind a soloist in the big band. So let's try those together. Sing it with me. Da, 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 do, ah. Nice. Now let's play one together. Let's use your left hand and let's just play the third and 7 of F7, a dominant chord. And we'll do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's switch back and forth with chords like I was doing before. So the first one we'll do is F7. The second one is B flat 7, and you can see that I'm still playing the third and 7 of a B flat 7 chord, but the 7 is on the bottom now, and the third is on the top. And then we'll go back to F7, and we'll just embellish F7 for that last doo-wah by going up a half step and back down to it. 2, ready, go. Again. If you're not at your piano, just pretend like you are. Just put your hand on your knee or something and play these with me. Great. There are more rhythms that are good rhythms to play. I would recommend just starting with quarter notes. Put on a blue blues that you like, and just play quarter notes on thirds and sevenths. Just like that. You want to do it with your right hand, you want to do it with your left hand, both. Then I'd try half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Then try it with just whole notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Just put on any blues that you like a lot. I always recommend Blues by 5. Miles Davis, can't go wrong. Remember, you'll have to figure out the key of the blues. That particular blues is actually in B flat instead of in F like I was just playing. Thirds and sevens are going to get you a long way. After you do whole steps, why not try offbeats? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. After you try that, why not try 1 quarter note, 2 eighth notes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, like that. After that, why not wait 2 beats and then try a couple of eighth notes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. You can try those doubled up eighth notes many different ways on every beat. You can try them on beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. You just have to give it a shot and see how they sound. The doubled up eighth note is a tricky rhythm. I've got a whole video about how to freaking swing because I have a concept that says you should hit that first one stronger and the second one a little bit lighter and shorter. Like that. Try with both hands. A lot of people will comp like with this rhythm. Or they'll hit it too hard in the second one, like that. There's a time and a place for that, but I really like to just finesse that second eighth note. 3, 4. And I also like to practice putting it on different beats, like I said. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I would say if you hit it on the fourth beat, that might be the time to accent the second one of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4, like that. But if it's on the other beats, you might just want to pull back on that second one and take a little time and play those with me. Try to match my articulation. The first one's going to be long. The second one's going to be short. You're going to wait just about as long as you can to play that second one also. 1, 2, 3, 4, right before beat 4. See that? Right before beat 4. You don't want to do it halfway between. You want to be swinging extra hard, which means holding off on that second eighth note almost until the next beat happens. It takes a little work. It's also a really good idea to just listen to your favorite blues, like I said, and just sing that rhythm. Like it's going along and you're just going da-da, 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 like that. Quarter notes are always a good idea as well, so you can 1, 2, da-da, 1, 2, and a good offbeat stab is a good idea as well. I would really recommend listening to the Duke Ellington Band, the Count Basie Band. Listen to the great big bands and try to comp with them, in your head at least. Just listen to those background figures that the horns are playing and try to line up. All right, we're moving on to notes. Refer to my jazz Bible now. If we look at it, you can see that I've given you a little guide at the top that says either the third or the seven should be on the bottom. It doesn't mean that that is the rule in every case ever, but when you're starting out, it's a great rule, and I would say probably 75% of the time when I'm comping, maybe even more, the third or the seven of the chord is always on the bottom. On major chords, you can see that I've told you that you can play the third and the seven. We're talking about C major here. You can play the third and the seven, Or you can start with the 7 and the 3rd. Either way is okay. You kind of want to just be aware of what's going on above you. If the melody is right in this area, you might want to start down here. If the melody's up here, I'm just making up a melody. You might want to start here. Or you might like the way it sounds to play lower when somebody's up high, or the way it sounds to play higher when somebody's down low. You kind of have to mess around with that and trust your ears. 3rd and 7. The other 2 notes that are cool to play almost all of the time on a major chord are the 9 and the 13. This is a great way to spread them out if you're playing in an open voicing position. Now, if you're not, if you're playing in a closed voicing position, you want to put them close together. So instead of having this A on top, we put it right inside there. That means to take all 4 of those notes and put them as close together as possible. The way you know which one of these you have to do depends on what your right hand is doing. If you're the one playing the melody, you're playing a closed voicing because you want to be able to grab all of those notes with one hand because your other hand's busy. Now, if this hand is not busy, that means if somebody else is playing the melody or if somebody else is taking the solo, that's time to spread them out. Open voicing. If we do it with the 7 on the bottom, it's a really nice stack of 4ths. That's a great sound. McCoy Tyner used that all the time. On my Jazz Bible, you can see that I've got, after those 4 notes, I've got a couple other notes that are okay to play too. You want to avoid playing the root because the bass player is typically going to handle the root and you don't want to get in their way. But sometimes you can play the root. This is an instance I like to play the root on. I like to play the 3rd and 7 here and then play the 9 and stack some 4ths. That's a great sound. If the root is at the top of your voicing and it's a part of this kind of dissonance, that's really hip to play, and the bass player is not going to get mad at you for playing their note. What if we do it this way? Now you can see I've got the 5th in the mix as well. The 5th is another one of those notes in parentheses that I say is cool to play sometimes, especially when you stack 4ths. Rearranging these 4 notes is a great idea, just for your own visualization of what they're about. You've got a couple of dissonances in there. Anytime that we can highlight dissonance, we want to do it. I mean, not anytime, but a lot of times it really makes you sound like a modern player. Let's move on and talk about minor chords just a little bit. You can see we've got the flatted 3rd, the flatted 7th. And like I said, we can always flip-flop these. This time, let's work from here. Flatted 7th on the bottom. For the closed voicing, we'll add the 9th of the chord. We'll add the 5th of the chord. That's just a great sound for a minor chord, to have the 9th and the 5th as well as the flat 3rd and the flat 7. Now, if we'd like to spread them out, we want to just take the 3rd and 7 on the bottom, or 7 and 3 as the case may be. We've got our 5th there. Looks like an E-flat major chord, doesn't it? Even though we're playing C minor. I want to put the 9 on the top. Cool, right? Okay, an extra note that you can play is the 11. The 11 is really hip. And like I said, sometimes you want to highlight dissonance. So if I notice that the 11 is really close to the 5, I think that might sound really great. I might want to play it like that. Another note that's okay to play is the root. So like I said before, anytime you can figure out how to stack some 4ths, I say do it. So how about this? If we have the 5th and the root and the 11th, to me, this is just as beautiful of a dissonance as this was. The 4ths add a different kind of dissonance, a more open, shall we say, consonant dissonance. I don't know if we should, but I did. This is a great kind of chord. Well, let's work at it from this way. Look at that one. What if we wanted to add one more 4th? You've got the 11 in there now, and it's beautiful. You have to kind of use your imagination with these fundamental ideas that the 3rd should be on the bottom or the 7 should be on the bottom. You have the notes that I told you. You've got the extra notes that are okay to add. Stack 4ths when you can. Now, as we move on to dominant chords, we won't talk about fourths quite as much. We can, but what I like to do about dominant chords, and let's talk about C7. There's our third, there's our 7, right? Natural third, flatted 7th. The other notes that are cool to add are the 13 and the 9. There's our closed voicing position. Here would be our closed voicing position with the flat 7 on the bottom. What if I spread it out? It means we put this one on top, right? That's a great sound, isn't it? But the other notes that are cool to add, I mean, this is C7, like classic C7, classic C9, classic C13. Sometimes those terms are a little bit interchangeable amongst jazz players. If you see a chord that's written as C13, I'm going to almost guarantee you that the 13 will be the melody note. And that's the reason they've written it that way. That note would be in the melody. Same thing if you see a C9. If they take the time to put that 9 in there, it probably means that the 9 is in the melody. Otherwise, if you just see C7, you can count on being able to play the 3rd and 7 and add that 9 and that 13. They're just going to be widely accepted as hip. The other cool notes on a dominant chord are, of course, you can figure out times when it's okay to play the 1. You can figure out times when it's okay to play the natural 5. Those aren't going to happen quite as often in dominant chords because the other notes are so cool. The other notes deal with the 9 and the 5. That's how I like to think of them anyway. So there's the 5 of C7. We could sharp it, or we could flat it. Those are great choices for altering your dominant chord. Altering or making more spicy, giving more color, however you want to look at it. The other one is the 9. We can mess around with the 9. We can either flat it, hear how that sounds with the root, or we can sharp it. Now, once you've figured out that you've got these notes to play with over a C7 chord, that one's kind of cool. But it's kind of extreme too. You're altering every single thing that you could alter, just about. Whew! Flat 9, sharp 9, flat 5, sharp 5. Oh my gosh. You want to take a look at these notes and think, all right, could I build a triad out of any of those? If so, what would the triad be? Well, I don't know. What do I have here? I've got this note and this note. They belong to an F sharp triad. What if I added the B flat? Is that a part of C7? Could it be cool? Yeah, it's the 7th. It's a little redundant because you've already got it here, but it's a great sound. Now go back to them. You could also think about, what about these two notes? Well, they're both part of an A flat triad. Could I add the C? Is that okay with C7? Yeah, it is. That's a great sound as well. A lot of times, a triad on top of a 3rd and 7 is going to be magic. You could also say to yourself, these two notes could be part of a D flat triad, right? But the F isn't going to work because it would clash with that. It's the 4th. It's no good. So sometimes, you might try to stumble upon a triad that just doesn't work. And that's okay. I mean, if you've got the 4th against the 3rd, it's not going to be a good idea. If you've got the 7 against the flat 7, it's not going to be a good idea. So to sum up, 3rd and 7 for the dominant 7th chords. You can add the 9 and the 11 if you want. You can alter those notes if you want. You can try to find triads if you want. You need to be a little creative with this. There are different ways that you can make it work, but you just got to kind of try them all. That's a nice one. Okay, moving onward. How about moving from chord to chord? How are you going to do that? Rhythm-wise, it's easiest to start with whole notes and half notes and to only change on the beat, like when the harmony actually changes. It's a good idea to do this kind of thing until you've got the chord progression kind of under your belt and you've pretty much have it memorized. After that, it's a question of creating rhythms that complement everything else going on, like the horn punches in a big band. The kind of rhythms that we talked about before will still work. The main thing is to just be supportive without getting in the way of the soloist or the melody that is being played or sung. There are two ways to do this. One way is that you can listen for the holes and wait to play in them. So if it's a blues going on Boo-doo-da-da, boo-doo-da-da, boo-doo-da-da-da. Like that. The other way is to listen to what the soloist is doing and help them out with the accents that they're playing. So, boo-loo-ba-da, boo-loo-ba-da, boo-loo-ba-boo-ah. Chances are, if they play that once, they're going to play it again. Boo-loo-ba-da, boo-loo-da-da, boo-loo-ba-boo-da. If a soloist is good, they'll be easy to read. They'll give you good clues about how to help them out. And if they're a weaker soloist, just, I don't know, your job changes. Your job then becomes to make sure that everybody can follow the harmony, because then it becomes like your sole responsibility, and you should take it seriously. If you've got a weaker soloist, look at it as a good challenge to make sure everybody understands the harmony. Somebody's got to hold these cats together. It can be you. The easy answer for how to change from one chord to another chord is to find the path of least resistance. It can mean that if you're on an F7 chord and you have to change to a B flat 7 chord, 7, 3, 13, 9, it's a great open position like we've talked about, and you have to go to a B flat 7 chord, you need to ask yourself, all right, what are the notes of that chord? Well, it's going to be D and A flat and C and G. Do I have any of those already? I've got the D and I've got the G. Cool. All right, what are the other ones? We've got A flat and C. All right. So this here is the third. I should put it on the bottom. And maybe I should change this one to the C. So we go from here to here. F7 to B flat 7, the path of least resistance. We keep any common tones that exist, and then we make sure to either have the third or 7 on the bottom and to move the other notes as little as possible. Now say we want to go from F7 maybe to F minor. All right, so we say, what are the notes in F minor? We need the flatted third, which is going to be A flat. We're going to need a C, an E flat, and a G. Cool, we've got 2 of those. And the 7 happens to be on the bottom. We've got these 2. The other 2 notes we needed are going to be C and A flat. And look how close they are. I'll tell you a secret. Most of the time when you're moving from chord to chord, you don't have to move much more than this. Because composers are really smart, and they know how to write chords with smooth voice leading, chords that lead to other chords that make sense. So the first thing to do is to figure these out. What's the path of least resistance from chord to chord, from voicing to voicing? And when I say voicing, it just means the order of notes. Just how you choose to play them. That's a different voicing than that. This, it's different. They're all different voicings, different ways to voice the chord. You think of every one of these notes as a voice in a choir. That's what we're talking about. And then when we talk about voice leading, we're talking about making sure that this tenor has got it as easy as possible. If we're moving from F minor to B flat 7, the third of F minor is the same as the 7 from B flat. So that tenor's got it made. He's just going to stay on the same note. Actually, the alto and soprano have it made as well. It's just the baritone that's going to have to move down a half step. That's what we're talking about when I say voice leading. And like I said, whole notes and half notes are a really good idea at first. Say we're talking about My Romance. My romance doesn't have to have a moon in the sky. I'm just changing from chord to chord exactly where it says to in the chord changes. Right when the chord changes, I make the chord change. Does that make sense? Then you can go back to the kinds of rhythms that we used before. After you've got these movements in your wheelhouse, but it'll take a while to get them there, to have that path of least resistance. It's a journey. It's a good idea to write them out when you're beginning, just to take all of the chords, make a blank sheet of staff paper with chord symbols on it, and then just use, a grand staff with the bass clef and the treble clef and write out those 4 notes for every single chord. After you see them like that, don't rely on them forever. You need to memorize them. And after you memorize them, you can start to mess around with different rhythmic punches, just like we talked about before. My romance doesn't have to have a moon in the sky. Little offbeat stabs, little 2 in a rows, but right? Again, following the example of the big band. You can also follow the example of other piano players. You can listen to your favorite recordings with your favorite pianists and just pay close attention to what they do during the other solos. Now, when you're moving from chord to chord playing open voicings, well, we didn't talk about closed voicings, but it's the exact same thing. You just want to find the very easiest movement between chords. All right? Now, when we're talking about open voicings and when we're talking about playing behind somebody, this is the time to look, we'll go back to C major. This is the time to look for your fourths. Like this, right? Or to look for your fourths. Ooh, like this maybe. That's hip. And then to ask yourself, all right, if we're moving from a C major chord to an F major chord, I could just keep this note on the top and move accordingly. I can move to the 3rd and the 7. I can get the 9 here, but I've already got the 9 here. Sometimes you can double. That's okay. Sometimes you can ask yourself, what else might I be able to play that would be cool? And, there are a bunch of answers for that. But when you move from chord to chord, you're kind of creating a melody. So you want to ask yourself about this top note. And you want to say, what's a good little, it's kind of like a counter melody to play behind a soloist. So you get to this part, doesn't have to have a moon. You might want to go, instead of going from D minor 7 to G7 like this with just the path of least resistance, this might be a time to alter that 9. A moon in the sky. Might be a time to put the 5th on top, just to make a nice melody. I like to think about my top note of my voicing as being a counter melody to whatever else is going on. And that's how I approach it. Sometimes I'll play a closed voicing with my left hand, and with my right hand, I'll just play octaves and make a melody. My romance doesn't have to have a moon in the sky. I'll make my own little melody out of whatever is on top, what my right hand is doing, and you can just do it with octaves. In that case, you're playing closed voicings with your left hand. There are so many options, but I'm trying to make it in a nutshell today. And I hope that this has helped. Please put your questions in the comments, and if I can't get to them, somebody else will help you answer them because we've got such a good community here. Not to plug my own stuff too much, but you can pick up this jazz Bible in a couple of different ways. You can pick it up in the video that I made about it. You can click in the description, and I'll put it in this description as well, to get the jazz Bible. It'll tell you, and I only went over 3 types of chords. We didn't talk about diminished or half diminished. Anything you ever want to know about that kind of stuff, I've got so many dang videos on my channel. You can just search for my name in the search bar and anything you want, half diminished chords, and you will find what you're looking for. I promise you. So pick up the Jazz Bible if you need that little cheat sheet just kind of always sitting on your piano. The other way to pick it up is to go to themusiciansnotebook.com and buy my staff paper. I've created a really nice book of staff paper that has all kinds of cool features. Go there, the link will be in the description. You can click on collaborations and get my version of staff paper because this Jazz Bible is on the inside cover. The other cool thing about the staff paper is that as you get halfway through the book, there isn't just staff paper on each page anymore. On the left-hand side, you have lined paper for keeping notes during lessons or writing lyrics or whatever you want, and then staff paper on the right. is a pretty cool book. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Aimee Nolte Music.